Hey friends, in this video I am going to show you how to change your fonts inside any Canva design. I have our boho sales pitch presentation pulled up in the neutral collection. It's one of my favorite designs we have here in the shop. And part of why I love it so much is this beautiful font. So whether you're wanting to change the font inside this file or in another file to even look like this, it's really easy to do it, and I'm going to show you a way that you can quickly and simply change fonts throughout your entire document in just a few clicks. So the first thing we're going to do is select the font that we want to change, and then we're going to click on this box up here. It's going to have your font name inside it. This one happens to be Tanagean, but if you're selecting something with a different font, it will say something different up here. And then we can go into our font panel. If you have Canva Pro, you're going to have access to a lot of extra fonts. Anything with this crown icon to the side of it is only available inside Canva Pro accounts. And you're also going to have the ability to upload your own brand fonts. So if you have something that's not available inside Canva, you can upload a font file as long as you have the right license and save it inside your brand font files. So let's just say we want to change this. Let's maybe make it this guy right here. You're going to see it change on the screen here, but then you're also going to get this prompt to change any font that was Tanagean to this new font right here. And if we hit change all, this is kind of the secret sauce to making changes really simple and easy. You can see anything that was that font on every single slide throughout your document has now updated. However, one of the things that can be a little bit tricky about using that tool is when you change fonts, maybe the font size doesn't look good in the new font and you need to kind of update more than just the font itself, but maybe you want to kind of size up. Maybe we should try size 75 for this one, or honestly even 80, just to make it feel more like the other one did. So that's really simple to do obviously once, but then all of these guys are also still a smaller size. So what I recommend doing is changing one of every type. So this is like our entire document title right here, right? So this is the biggest we should have. And I maybe even crank it up to 85. Okay, so we have like our main title font figured out. But then we also have these smaller headings here that we might want to change. I'm going to go ahead and decide maybe 65 just for like our normal slide heading. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to hit this copy style icon that looks like a paint roller, and we're going to go into the next font that is the same. That's that title slide, but it's also that white color, and I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to do the same thing for this guy right here and just click on it, and it'll paste that styling. The reason I'm not doing it on these white slides is because I want this to be this orange color text instead of a cream color text. And then I'm also going to do it here. I'm just going to go ahead and type 65 here. And the reason I didn't paste that style is because this one happens to be center aligned, but these ones were left aligned. You can still do it. If I like copy this one, for example, and paste it, you can still do it. But then you're just going to need to update the text afterwards. So just keep that in mind. But now we have this larger text size that we can now copy and paste onto other ones, and copy and paste onto other ones. So now all of our headings, actually, we have one more. There we go. Now all of our headings are updated to this font and the size that we like. I'm going to show you a few other things that we can tweak about these fonts to make them look great. So one thing that we're going to look at is this spacing icon right here. And we have a few options inside here. One is letter spacing, and that's going to separate the letters individually. Most of the time, I'm going to recommend you have this at 0. The only time that I would recommend increasing it is if you're doing a small all caps text, and it's you can separate letters just a little bit. I really wouldn't recommend going this far unless you're going for a very stylistic look. But if you want it to remain readable, I would recommend keeping it between 50 and 150 to 200 for the most part, but this works really well for smaller text sizes that are all caps, and it helps keep headings more readable at that size. So there is a very practical reason to add a little bit of letter spacing, other than it just looking pretty. You know, you definitely can do some really fun things that are very spread out like that, but for normal headings, I would recommend keeping it like that. The other spacing element we have is line spacing, and this changes the amount of space between two lines of text. This doesn't count if you hit like enter. It's not going to necessarily add any extra space there. It's always going to affect the space between every single line, whether or not you've hit return between the lines. So this font, I do think, warrants a little bit of a tighter letter spacing than the previous one. You don't want so much space that it feels out of place, but you also don't want it to be so close that letters crash. So I would recommend, every font's a little bit different. In this case, I think I would recommend a 1.2 just to make it feel a little bit tighter, but not so far apart that, you know, it's a good balance between readable and too close together. So then I kind of scooched it down since we had a little bit of change, and then we can kind of recenter all of our text blocks there. I believe that's the only text block that kind of wraps like that, but if we, you know, had something like this that wrapped, I would also go ahead and update this to be 1.2. Let's see. We also have the option, and I kind of previewed it to you, to make things all caps, and that's this uppercase icon right here. That way you don't have to type in all caps. If you want it to be all caps, you can easily switch back and forth and decide which way you like. Some fonts are also going to have the option to do bold, italic, and underline. Not every font will. It just kind of depends. And then obviously we can make list or numbered lists, or standard text. So there's some really cool things you can play around with here to make text feel special. The last thing I'm going to show you when it comes to text editing is this effects panel here. This has some really nice options that I wouldn't recommend adding all over the place in your designs for something like a slide deck, but if you're creating social graphics or something like that that's a little bit more decorative, this can be a really cool place to play around with things. We can play around with shadows. You can change, you know, the offset, how far away it goes from the main letters, what direction they go in, how much that shadow is blurred, and also the transparency of it and the color of it as well. So there's some really cool things you can play around with shadow. Lift is a bit more simple. It's just the strength of lift. This is really great when you're creating something like YouTube thumbnails and you have a photo behind the text. This can help keep that more readable on top of a busier photo. Hollow is just what it sounds like. It outlines your letters and you can change the thickness of that. Splice does a combination of shadow and hollow. You can change the thickness of the outline, the offset of it. You can even make it just like that. And then you can change the color to be something really fun. Let's see. Outline is also, it's similar to hollow, but it adds an outline but keeps the main text color there. Echo is similar to shadow, but it creates multiple shadows. Glitch is kind of neon-y. It's just fun to play around with these guys, right? Change the colors, have fun with it. Neon is very similar to a neon sign, and you can add the intensity of light, and then the color is the shadow. And then background obviously adds a background. For example, let's add the black one there. We can adjust the roundness, the spread, how far away it is from the letters, and also the transparency of it as well. So play around with those, have fun. The last thing that we can do is shape. This is quite a fun thing if you want to make something follow an arch shape. For example, I'm just going to copy this text and move it over. And we can add a curve to it and make it kind of follow this archway. And just kind of have some fun with that. You might want to make sure it's centered. And you can adjust how much it curves either way to make it follow a shape in a really beautiful way. So play around with that. There's a lot of really cool text options inside Canva. You can change fonts really quickly using that change all function, and then also this copy style and paste style. So just kind of get your hands dirty, get a Canva template pulled up, and play around with things and have some fun.